Hey everybody, welcome back to the Peter Walsh podcast. Grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and today we're going to be talking about adoption. That's right. Some of you may know from some of my other podcasts that I am an adopted child, and I think the real reason why I actually want to talk about this is because it can be a very, very sensitive and touchy issue for a lot of people. Now, I was fortunate, thank God, because I have a beautiful family. I've always been adopted, and and I've never ever had a problem with adoption, and I'd like to help because I think it's important, and especially now, any listeners in Ireland, they've now opened the books to everybody. So in other words, what this means is in October 2022. They have now decided that they're leaving all the records public, which means that any adopted child, adoptee mother or father that gave their child up for adoption, can actually now go through the public records, find out what information about that person, the adoptee or the adopter, and actually, as far as I know, contact the agency to then get in contact with the other member of the birth family. So guys, I mean, this is just, it's an unbelievable fucking, I think, shockwave to the system for a lot of people in Ireland. Now look, maybe you'd have to be an adopted child to understand that. Now, see, the reason why I want to talk about this is, and even if there is people that are adopted here listening to this, you might have had a horrendous experience. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because I've been very, very lucky. Count my lucky fucking stars, honest to God, of the family I'm with, because they are my family. It's as simple as that. There's no two ways about it. The thing is that I did go recently try and find my birth parents, because I think for a lot of kids, no matter who you are, even for me, I mean, I'm 43 years of age. It took me this fucking long to do it. And I was curious, extremely curious. And, and believe me, even though I have had a very good, smooth sailing life when it comes to adoption, I had a very, very hurtful situation. And I was really shocked how much it hurt. I couldn't fucking believe how much people that you don't fucking know, you've never met them in your life, can actually fuck you up. Now, mine was kind of short-term-ish. Like, I mean, I still, it's been now for me almost a year. I'm not going to get into my story now. But, I still feel the effects. No two ways about it. I'm just lucky that I have a great family. So, my story is, sorry, excuse me. My story is, I got a phone call in the summertime. I'll actually never forget it. I was actually having a nap. It was a beautiful summer's day here in Cork in Ireland, and sleeping on my couch in the TV room. Phone rings, and I'm literally half asleep answering the phone. So I answer, and it's the adoption agency. Now, 3 years before that, I actually applied. Okay? So I'm 43 now, and I was 42 last year. So when I was 39... I actually put in my application to go meet my birth parents. So there was a 3-year fucking backlog for this. I mean, insane. But anyway, so when this happened, the guy calls me and he goes, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from the adoption agency." And I went, holy shit. As you can imagine, 3 years later, you're not expecting this fucking phone call. You've almost forgotten about it, right? And I was like, oh my God, okay. So he says, look, you filled out your application and we have some information about your birth mother. I went, holy sweet Jesus. And it was right there, guys, that it was the first time in my life that I was like, oh my God, this is actually real. It's very bizarre. And he goes, yeah, look, first of all, your mother was 17 when she had you. And, I have to admit, right there, I was, in a way, not hooked. I was incredibly, I was incredibly attracted to get to know more. No doubt about it. Now, doesn't mean I want to go the whole way, as in, have an unbelievable relationship with her, but I was absolutely no way. I was in. I wanted to know more. So, I did find out a little bit more, and that's okay. Now, at the same time, This is going on. A few weeks later, I contacted back the agency. So I told him, I said, look, you know what? While I'm at it, fuck it. Why not? Why not? Might as well do it. I'm 42 years of age now. Let's open Pandora's box. Why not? And so I went and met the agency gentleman, and we sat down, and he said, look, okay, look, we can, there's a good chance that we can fast track this, because you know the way technology now these days, go on to ancestry.com, because he said, look, it might be a place where you'll be able to track down, you know, any side of your birth father and mother's side of relatives, or even brother and sisters. You'd never know, Peter. He said, I've seen a lot of things happen. You never know. I went, okay, let's do it. So anyway, what you do is you go on to ancestry.com, and you can open up a free account, or you can pay for the DNA test. So I went the whole way in. I got the €100 DNA test, sent it through. A week later comes back, and then you get an email. They say your results are in. So I opened it up anyway, and so it gives you, I know this sounds probably funny to some people now, but it's kind of like Tinder, right? Where you get a match, you know, and this sort of thing. Excuse me. So it's kind of like that, where you get a match, you get a DNA match. And so I see, you know, a list of people in my family tree. And at the top of the chain was a first cousin. And I went, Jesus. So, you know, X, I'll call her. I'm not going to mention her name. And underneath, first cousin in green writing. And I went, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? First cousin. So in one way in my head, it was almost like a game, an app that you play with. You know, it wasn't real, right? So I eventually reached out to the first cousin, so to speak. So I said, you know, basically, hey, how's it going, so-and-so? We're first cousins, can you believe it? So she came back and she said, actually, I don't think so, Peter, unless somebody was naughty in my family. And I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, you bitch. I didn't, kind of rubbed me up a little bit the wrong way now, the way she was kind of like just blowing it off. Because again, first cousins, right? It's not like, you know, closer in the family. So we end up talking a bit more. So then for anybody that's actually thinking about going into the Ancestry.com path, what you do is you get like I was saying, you get a first match, like a first cousin, second cousin, brother, sister, mother, father, whatever the match is, it tells you. But then it also gives you your CM score. Now, I had a very, very high CM score with this first cousin. So I went in anyway to the agency. The guy I was dealing with, he said, look, Peter, let's go through it. Let's see who's on it. I'll be able to know a little bit more. Now, the problem was, this was before they've opened up the laws here in Ireland. So he couldn't give me any information about my birth mother and birth father. Would you fucking believe? So yet the birth mother can have this access to to my information, but I can't have it about her, which is fucking crazy ridiculous. So anyway, where was I? So yeah, so I called into the guy in the agency. We sat down, and he starts going through it. And he whips out this chart of, in other words, okay, if you've got X CM score, this means this person's your brother, example now. Or if you've got this score, it could be either your brother or your cousin, right? So it's got that, you know, sort of a tick the box thing for Peter here. So he's having a look, and he starts staring at the screen. So then he turns and he says, Peter, she's not your first cousin. I went, right. And it's just the look in his eyes. I went, oh my God. Okay, well, go ahead. He goes, it's either your sister or your aunt. And I nearly dropped off the fucking chair in the office. I really did. It was just a, whoa, what the fuck is this? So I said, okay, well, how can you tell which one is which? Like, how can we find out, or what's the story? So he says, well, kind of a process of elimination. I said, look, to be honest, 90% she's probably your sister. I went, holy fuck. Okay. So he said, look, are you in contact with her? I said, well, yeah, I'm speaking to her on Ancestry.com, messaging. He goes, well, if you want, maybe have a chat with her and see what happens, right? He said, so we'll leave it at that there for now. And I said, okay, great. So I contacted the girl I'm speaking to, the first cousin, so to speak. So I said, look, is there any chance we can have a chat? There's definitely something I need to talk to you about. So she agrees. And I went, oh, I wonder is she on the same page as me here now? As in we're both thinking the same thing. So anyway, we have a chat. And we're running through a certain couple of scenarios. And we eventually find out that we're brother and sister on the phone. Which was an unbelievable shock on the phone. It was incredible. So she was saying to me that, and by the way, guys, there's a bit of a learning lesson in here and a big fucking warning here to anybody that is doing this, because this was a horrendous experience, this part. So I get off the phone from her and she said, well, look, I'm going to have a chat to Dad now, as in my birth father also. And she tells him about it and all that. And so she texts me about a half an hour after the phone call that we had. I mean now only a half an hour. And she's like, look, Peter, it was really nice to talk to you and this and that. And, Mum and Dad say hi. And I'm like, okay, say hello too. And she goes, look, is there any chance you could take another DNA test to just Dad wants to just double confirm everything. So as you can imagine, my back was fucking up right now. Now, well, maybe you can't imagine, right? I was talking to a few people. Like I did get advised that, if you're an adopted child, you don't go talking to somebody that's not adopted. Now, I actually said, well, no, actually, I'd like to hear what they think. In fact, how wishy-washy is it for people in their head? So anyway, I talked to a few people and I went, are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to take another second DNA test. They can go fuck off, go fuck right off, in fact. So I went back to them. I said, no, I'm not doing that. And then I went to them. I said, well, why doesn't your dad do the Ancestry.com test? Right? Because at least that's a good place to start. If I match with him and I match with you and he matches with you, well then surely be to God that's enough evidence that we're all close enough, right? As in we must be related to some degree. Maybe not as exactly what you think, but there's got to be some connection. So he does. Apparently the father came back and he said some wishy-washy bullshit excuse saying, oh no, I don't trust it and blah, 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 blah. Now, guys, here's my warning, okay? Learn from my mistakes here, because I was like, well, hang on a second. Ancestry.com is an established, proven fucking company. This isn't like I got a DNA test from Ancestry.com. This isn't some fucking DNA test I picked up in McDonald's as they were selling them with their lucky bags, right? Okay? They have hundreds of millions of users around the world. I never doubted it for 1 second. Even that the girl was my sister. Never even doubted it, right? Like, and it's not like I'm looking for some long lost fucking sister or brother. Not at all. I was just like going with the flow. And I'm like, okay, well, she's my sister, so right. So that happens. So anyway, a couple of weeks go by, and now and apparently the sister that I'm dealing with, she's going back and forth to the father. Now, there's a brother as well who's jumping up and down for joy, apparently, that I'm now, that I do exist, because he never had a brother in his life and he's dying to have a brother and he wants to reach out to me, etc. So, I mean, in one way, you're kind of feeling like a bit of a movie star. It's lovely to have that attention. But then the DNA thing came in. So, guys, I'm sorry now if I'm getting the story mixed up a little bit. As I was talking to the girl on the phone the first time ever, and we discovered that we were brother and sister, she was telling me then that, her brother would love a brother and jumping up and down for joy, because before the phone call they had a feeling, and she was delighted too. So anyway, after that, the DNA whole story saga kicked off, and so guys, here's the warning, really getting to the point now. The warning is, if you do make contact with your birth father or birth mother, be extremely fucking cautious of people who run in wanting to be your brother or your sister, right? And guys, I was lucky. I wasn't looking for extra sister and brothers. Like, I have 2 sisters and a brother already. I don't need another one, right? It's just not like an empty slot in my life. So, guys, really proceed with caution, because all of a sudden, they went from loving me for a few weeks, and they were like, even after that DNA thing, and I said no, they were still contacting me, and they were still trying to get close to me, and I said, look guys, back off, a little bit. I've got to deal with this with you and with your father first, then maybe we can talk. And then all of a sudden, couple of weeks later go by, and they're still insisting that I take the DNA test and all that. And sorry now, guys, I'm just taking a little bit of water here. Excuse me. So, yeah, a couple of weeks go by. They still insisting that I take a DNA test. So I went back to the... Now, by the way, I'm dealing with the girl. Typical. The father pussied out, didn't want to talk. And so talking to her, and she's like, look, Peter, the father is still insisting to take a DNA test. Look, it'll really just solve a lot of problems here, sort things out. So I went back to her. I said, look, I honestly don't see why I should take one. I said, like I said before, excuse me, Ancestry.com is a really established company. And I said, even the hints that the when we connected the dots on our story here to know that we were related, surely be to God that's enough evidence for your father to believe that, fuck me, we are related. And I also look like him. Like, I can see a bit of a trait, and I definitely can see a resemblance myself. But nope, didn't want to have anything to do with it. So anyway, about a month or two went past again, and because I told them that I wanted Christmas off. We'll talk again the new year. So we talked again in the new year, and then they said that again, no, they're not budging. They still insist of taking a DNA test, and that's it. So I went, okay then, well, this is going to be my last throw of the dice here. I went back to the so-called brother and so-called sister, and I said, look, guys, here's a message for you. Think about it. Let me know. I said, why don't we both meet halfway at the table, right? I said, I'll take 2 DNA tests. And again, key here, guys, fucking 2 DNA tests. Okay? Not 1, 2. Okay? So, I said, I'll take the second DNA test. Well, you can take your first. But I said, first of all, you guys go off and get Ancestry.com DNA test. And let's see if all 4 of us actually match, right? Because even if one of us doesn't match, well then at least the father could even use that against me if he wants, right? But I'm so confident in it that, hey, let's do it anyway. So the brother comes back and he goes, yeah, well maybe, and then he gives me some bullshit excuse about, oh, well if I used Ancestry.com, well maybe, that they'll sell my data, blah, 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 fucking blah. So I tried to say, look here, dude, it can be the exact same for the other company too, right? The second DNA test company. What's the difference? Who's to say they wouldn't sell the data? So, God, I'm actually getting wound up at even just remembering the story. Fucking hell. So he said, okay then. So the brother came back, and then the sister came back, and she was like, oh, look, Peter, I just want to protect my family, my kids, and blah, blah, blah. Just a stupid bullshit, wishy-washy fucking excuse. And I'm like, what the fuck do her kids have anything to do with this? They've nothing to do with her, with this whole DNA test. They're her kids, nothing to do with any of this. And yet, they're the ones that are insisting to take a DNA test. Not me. They are. So anyway, I said, look, what's her name? And I said, look, guys, I'm coming to the table. I'm trying to come to some sort of resolve the issue here with you, and at least all of us can be happy. And of course, I heard nothing back from the birth sister. Absolutely nothing. So she was all over me about insisting about taking the DNA test. Then she disappears when I come offering half to the table. Just fucking full of shit, basically. So, excuse me, guys, I'm just drinking more water here. So I went, okay then, well, do you know what? Deal's off. Go fuck yourselves, dickheads. That's in my head. Look, and look, I know I'm probably coming across as a bit hostile towards them. Thinking about the conversation now pisses me off. The way it was incredibly unfair. However, I don't hold a grudge against them. Even if they contacted me now, I'd still talk to them. Now, I'd be pissed on the fucking phone, and there'd have to be the air cleared, but anyway. So, back to the story. So in my head, I heard back from the brother, okay, I didn't hear back from the father, and then the sister, she ignored me. So, Grant, fuck this. Fuck all of ye. I'm not taking any second DNA fucking test proving myself to ye. So, a couple of days later, I get a phone call from the agency. And the birth father contacted the agency to send on a message to me. So the agency guy called me and he says, look, Peter, yeah, your birth father contacted me and like there was no reason really to. And he goes, yeah, he's taken the test. I went, hang on, sorry, what test now? He goes, oh, you know, that test that you were talking about doing a second DNA test. I went, well, actually, no, they were talking about a second DNA test. I wasn't talking about a second DNA test. I said, then I told him about what I was offering. And I said, well, hang on, agency guy. I said, did they take the Ancestry.com test now, as in the birth father, or did he not? He goes, no, he took some test that he was asking you to take. I went, oh, so the second one. Okay, anyway. So he took that, and I went, okay. But I said, but I didn't propose to do that. He goes, and the agency guy, in fairness to him, he was like, okay, look, I'm just passing along the message. I went, yeah, no, okay, sure, that's fine, but I don't get why he's calling you, because I offered them another proposal last week. So I just realized, I went, oh, sneaky fucking move. Sneaky fucking move. And so basically, backed me into a corner. I've taken the test. Now you're up. Let's go. So eventually, talking to my psychologist, she recommended Peter, and to be honest, and I did too at this stage. I just threw in the fucking towel. I accepted defeat. My whole motivation turned at that stage where I said, you know what? Fuck it. It's time to shove it up his ass. Take the second DNA test. Took the test. The results came back and there was not one bit of shock. Like genuinely, sorry, I'm looking at the camera here. There was not one bit of shock when I took that second DNA test because I fucking knew. Because all the hints were there. So anyway, came back. He tried to call the agency. And he said, look, he'd like to write a letter to me. And I went, look, I'm not dealing with this shit right now. Fuck this. So that was almost a year ago. And guys, it was very hurtful. And I haven't spoken to them since because I felt like an absolute fucking beggar on the street looking for love me, or give me some money or something, which I was not looking for. I've come from a very well-off family. I'm doing fine. And I don't give a shit about his money. That's the way I thought. And still think. So, I mean, and that was the day, you know, excuse me, even if I'm heard from him now, I mean, I probably would talk to him. So, hey, you know, birth father, if you are actually listening, no problem if you want to contact me. I don't know how we're going to get on, but whatever. If I don't hear from you ever again, well, if you are listening to this, well, listen, Godspeed to you, sir. And I really genuinely do appreciate that, well, you've brought me into this life, honest to God. And I'm looking in the camera, by the way. Okay? Because without you, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here doing this podcast. I wouldn't be here opening up and confessing, getting all this off my fucking chest. So I want to thank you, honest from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you, sir, for bringing me into this world. Question is, could we have a relationship? I have no idea. I'm certainly not going to be contacting you. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I will. Because I just look like a fool. Just look like a fool. Just look like a fool. So, guys, where was I? So, yeah, guys, I mean, look, there's no doubt about it. Like, that was in February, March of 2022. I'm still, you know, I think about it every day, as I'm sure people can imagine. And for the adopted children that are listening out there, you know, even like, and look, you know, if you are having a really bad life, I just want you to know that, look, if you ever want to have a chat, now some of you might be saying, look, oh, well, I've had it way fucking worse than you, Peter, and I've no doubt in my mind, right? I'm not one of these, look, bring out the violin for Peter victim. I hate that shit. I have no doubt in my mind that there is so many people out there in the world that have had it a million times worse than I've had it. I've had it really, really good. I mean, families have problems, but I've had it exceptionally good. I've been one of the lucky ones. But my point is this, even though I'm one of the lucky ones, I still went through fucking hell for 3 or 4 months. Absolute living hell. It was torture. And I can still feel it to this day. So, it'll probably take me another couple of years to really properly, well, hopefully recover to 100%. But again, it just goes to show no matter how lucky you are, no matter how happy you are in your life, it can still take you down. So I'm looking in the camera here. I'm here. If anybody would like to ever reach out, even have a chat on the podcast, I would absolutely more than happy to. Because it opened my eyes to how bad some people can have it. And I can't even imagine how some people can have it, a million times worse than I could. Like, I can't even be in that position, even though I'm coming from an adopted scenario, So guys, I suppose I just want to, before I go here, I'm going to just round up here quickly. I want to say that just a couple of things. Number one, all right, if anybody out there wants to talk, please contact me. Okay, contact me by email. We'll have a chat. Just put in the headline adoption, and I'll make sure that I get back to you as soon as I can. And we can reach out on the phone. We can go do a podcast together, whatever it is, no problem. Either way, just contact me first of all. Number two, if anybody is doing this, and if you end up in a scenario where, like I had, where you discover that you have a brother and sister or something, okay? Make sure, please, that if they do come running at you, right? And I don't blame them. Now, by the way, look, like, I don't blame them. And to be fair, even to my, the brother and sister on the birth father side, I don't blame them for getting really excited too. I mean, I don't know what it feels like for them, right? So I probably would be, if it happened, like, I'm not looking for another brother, but I mean, if some scenario happened where I just happen to have another brother out there, I probably would be like, hey, well, that's fucking cool, like, oh, that'd be awesome, even though I wouldn't be looking for one, right? So I can understand that people would be really excited about that too, but here's the point, guys, is that if they do come charging at you, which they probably will, right? Now, there's a good chance that they might. If they do, and they're all over you like a movie star, they want to contact you, phone call, email, meet up, like, within the first couple of days of talking, that is a major fucking red flag to you, okay? It's not a red flag about the people themselves, all right? It's not about them. It's about the situation, because believe you me, the further you go down this rabbit hole, the more emotions start to come up, and it will overwhelm you. And if you meet them too early, too fast, a lot of times you fall flat on your fucking face. Now, I was told that by the adoption agency, my agent from the agency, right? He told me that before all of this even took off. He was telling me some horror stories. And I was wondering, like, why the fuck is he telling me the horror stories? But I got it really quick, because he has to prepare you for some horrendous shit that can happen. So, and I'm glad he did. And it did happen to me. I was a fucking movie star for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, no one wanted to talk to me again. Bang. And I mean, guys, like a fucking click of the finger. Right? It was that bad. But like I said, I wouldn't blame them, because it was just excitement, But I mean, for me, I did take on board what my agent said, and what he said about the horror stories. It happened to me. So I would just say, guys, don't rush into meeting up a brother or sister. First of all, make sure that you talk to your adoption agency, because look, they deal with this stuff all the time. Obviously, talk to a psychologist. But look, if you don't have the money to go to a psychologist or something, it does help. It can help to talk to somebody that's been through this already, and I've been through it already. All right, so I'm here if you want to talk. But I would definitely say, guys, try and talk to a psychologist. talk to the agency. They'll give you and hopefully you'll get a good agent, and they'll give you all the correct good information that you need, right? And the preparation, and even all the preparation in the world doesn't fucking prepare you for falling flat in your face. It really doesn't. Because you're going to probably deal with the guilt as well of trying to meet your birth mother and father because you have your mum and dad already. So it's almost like I even explained this to my mum. I said, look, Jesus, mum, do you know what? Me trying to deal with my birth mother and father is like me like married to you, but I'm going off cheating with some girl, and yet you're okay with it. But in my head, I'm screaming, going, no, I'm not okay with this. This is fucked up. You know, now I'm sure there's people out there that are adopted and that they've been through the exact same thing, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's what I would say, guys. Just make sure, all right, make sure that that you don't rush in, all right? Talk to the agent. Make sure the agent is very good, because there is quite a few buckaroos out there, right? They're not very good, some of the agents. So make sure you do get a good agent, all right? Just because they might sound really professional at the start and everything, that's cool. But believe me, guys, it's like any job. There's good and bad employees of any job, okay? And as well, you know, if anybody is going through this, and I understand this now, by the way, right? Like, I don't know if you're listening to this podcast, excuse me, you know, you're probably hearing me getting really pissed off there now, talking or bringing back up that whole DNA stuff and everything, which does still kind of annoy me when I think about it. Sure, look, we all have our things that annoy us, but I've got to a stage where, like, and I appreciate unbelievable amount that my birth father and birth mother brought me into this life, because I wouldn't have what I have now. I mean, guys, we have a 400 trillion to fucking 1 odds of being here anyway. And whether you're adopted or you're not, we all have this exact same fucking odds. Exact same odds. The way we came into the world, totally different scenarios. So yeah, guys, listen, if you are going ahead with this in Ireland, obviously, and maybe you didn't know, the books are open to the public now. So if you want to go chasing your birth parents, go ahead. I would highly suggest, now again, look, I'm not no expert here, but I would just highly suggest what I've learned. Go to Ancestry.com. Open up an account. If you want to go down this rabbit hole or open up Pandora's box, or maybe it won't even be, Ancestry.com, take the DNA test, €100. You should be able to find first, second, third, fourth. I mean, I saw first to ninth cousins all the way down back in like America and fucking Sweden and all these kind of places. So like, you know, and you never know. You never know. You could meet a brother or sister like I did. You know? And guys, you know, if you're younger than 40s, this is my last bit of advice. No matter what fucking age you are, I don't care if you are 18. I don't care if you're 28, 38, 48, 60, 70, 88. It doesn't matter what age you are. You will never be ready for what goes through the gates. And that's not to scare you. That's just to tell you that, listen, if you want to do it, but you're thinking, well, I'm too young or I'm too old at this stage, you know, timing's not right. Bullshit, okay? The timing will never be right for something like this. I mean that. There is no good timing for this. Now, okay, unless, you know, a parent or a family member's died or something, you know, God forbid, or a really close friend, fair enough, of course. But apart from the real urgent cases, right? There's no such thing as good timing for this. And it doesn't matter what age you are either. So, guys, I wish you Godspeed. I will be back again for my next podcast. And yeah, guys, listen, I want to thank you for listening. And that was great to actually let it off in public. I feel better. It's got it off my shoulders for the first time. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you again.